Melissa, about what you said about equations was fascinating. So if there are those difficulties, have you guys ever thought of something else to replace the equations as a way to illustrate, as a way to diagram, as a way even to talk?
The Feynman diagrams were just that,
Yeah.
but they don't completely do it.
What would do it, you think?
Well, equations are good. You just can't read them aloud.
That's what I mean.
You have to sort of just sit and bang your head against them.
So is it just like coming up with a bunch of adjectives or what?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer. It's a good question, but I've just begun reading them aloud, and maybe will all change. Maybe I'll start to understand them, which is quite also possible. I don't know if there's any scientists in the room, that I'm the only one who doesn't read them aloud. Yeah.
Well, maybe they could be music texts.
But music, you make it.
When you read your equations, do they have rhythm?
I think just F equals MA. That is a kind of.
But when you read
Yeah, I
them,
know.
they were
Yeah,
rhythmic.
I was trying-
You had the music in your head.
I had his music in my
Or
head.
his
Yeah.
music, yeah.
Maybe you ought to talk with Nancy Tengblad and get her to scan your brain.
I do. I want her to. I totally want her to scan my brain.
Probably afraid of what you find.
When either you're writing your equations or you're looking at them, thinking about them, what do you see?
I see them.
But you have suggested imagery in
Yeah.
the text that you put up in the slides. So I'm curious what you also might see.
I just want to say something ahead of time. I'm an experimentalist, so there's a whole class of people who are different than me called theorists, and I can't speak for them. And I don't really like them. I'm kidding. Totally kidding. I don't know. It's interesting. I haven't thought about it enough, but as you're writing equations, you sort of are thinking more about what's on top and what's on bottom and what that means. Like, you're thinking things like, if I increase the bottom, what happens to the thing? Or if I decrease the top, it's a kind of, I don't really, I'll come back in a year with the answer. Yeah.
Yeah, you said something very interesting about the struggle to put space and time together. And sometimes you think about space and sometimes you think about time. And it's, in a way, that question speaks to what you both do. But I'm wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more about that in terms of the work that you do, and maybe Mark can talk about what that's like for him, putting space and time together in his music.
Could Mark talk first? And then I'll riff off of Mark.
Well, I read a book that said in the medieval, that music notation was the first graph. It was the first time there was ever a time axis and then a spatial axis, which is the pitch. So that's the bread and butter of music. And in notated music, that is doing a great big piece like this song cycle or other pieces, it's done over time. And so not only do I navigate what happens, what the notes and harmonies are, but I also change as my brain changes as I spend time with this for the big demanding pieces. So I'm thinking about that all the time.
That was really good.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah. I just have a big problem with space-time because it curves and everything, and sometimes it curves in ways that I'm not very good at thinking about.
Well, that's really good. I mean, in curved space-time, I have very crazy rhythms that just, nothing is set rhythmically, and so that's like curvature.
Do you ever had that feeling where your brain is actually growing as you speak? Yeah. I think I have to come back next year again for The question is, what's my problem with space-time?
We're gonna just, maybe just two more.
Anyway, so I have this question for Mark, and I mean, I know that you obviously also know a lot about mathematics, so I mean, like you have such a logical and very systematic approach, like the, the ladder, and I'm just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit. I'm also curious, if you maybe might talk a little bit about other compositions you've been working on, or that you know.
Oh, sure. Well, I guess the first part is being mathematical and logical, and that's certainly part of this. But it's just a tool, and if I didn't have to think about it, I wouldn't. I was thinking about the Cambridge and MIT's late lamented Tom Magliozzi, when he was running for president in the 90s, his campaign slogan was unencumbered by the thought process. And that's how I operate. And what's wonderful about that is that doesn't mean that you get people who are in the news now. What it means is that it means that there is a thought process, but that you're not encumbered by it. So I'm looking to jettison it. Like once I had that music ladder, once it worked, fine, the end. I don't really care about the idea going into it. But the thought process applies both to the composer, to the performers, and to the listener. And then the being unencumbered is a goal in all three of those functions.
That's like being a free-range chicken?
Yes.
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 I realized I wanted to say it's a free-range chicken woman. Because, women often feel that they can't think freely. I don't know why that is. In the old days. So this.
I can't help you.
Well, you can help me, actually. You play the music, and then I can.
And then she can,
I can think.
yeah.
Well, the question also talked about current compositions, and there's a brand new composition finished days ago for violin and viola, and it's a duo, and it's
It's here.
It's there, but I play it during the party, and
I just got an idea. But go ahead.
so. But that is germane to the vacuum and nothingness. I like to think about pieces that aren't there, like a pieceless piece. What that means, I think about writing things that aren't there, and it's not that there aren't notes and instruments playing them, but the idea of it is, and so that's brand new, and it basically doesn't have themes. It has a musical idea, but it's very buried. So that's a new piece.
So I would like to take this moment and thank everyone for coming, and thank Melissa and Mark for just marvelous conversation.